Hi, my name is Bill Doherty. I want to welcome the viewers to another edition of Bill's Bullpen. Bill's Bullpen is a program intended to give folks some idea of what's going on both locally and regionally. And today I have Escher Cattle. Okay, Escher is the newly minted entomologist at Barnstable County. Now I want to emphasize the fact that Barnstable County provides a lot of good services to everybody in the county. All 15 towns benefit from it. But I think that today, with all of the things that we see in the paper, there's a lot that folks need to find out about as far as the bugs that are attacking us. So Escher, what's going on with the with the tick situation here on Cape Cod?
Well, we do have a higher incidence of tick bites than we have in previous years. There's a current 10-year surge of tick bites in the Northeast, and we're no exception. We're up about 65% on ER visits from tick bites from this 6 months of the year last year. Mm-hmm. Currently, our disease profile doesn't look too different.
What does that mean when you say disease profile?
Basically, how many people are getting tick-borne diseases from those tick bites and the kinds of diseases that they're getting. We have our top 8 most common diseases. The top 3 that we usually have are Lyme disease, anaplasmosis, and babesiosis. And the numbers on that don't really look too different from last year with how many people are catching those.
What about this new one I've heard about, alpha-gal?
Oh, alpha-gal syndrome. That is, it works completely differently from all the other diseases that we know about from tick-borne diseases. That's because rather than being caused by a pathogen, an organism getting into your body from the tick's salivary glands after being hijacked by that pathogen, alpha-gal syndrome is the triggering of an allergy to a carbohydrate from a sugar called galactose alpha-1,3 galactose, or alpha-gal. And like pretty much all mammal species have alpha-gal in their bodies natively, so they wouldn't be allergic to alpha-gal if this happened to them. Like your dog couldn't catch alpha-gal syndrome and a pig couldn't catch alpha-gal syndrome. But the old world apes, like our closest relatives, like gorillas and chimpanzees and orangutans, and us as their relatives, at some point in our evolutionary history, there was an advantage to not having that carbohydrate made in our bodies anymore. There was some disease that other mammals were catching that we didn't catch because we no longer had alpha-gal. However, that means that now alpha-gal being basically injected into us through the Lone Star tick's bite, it's a native part of their saliva. This triggers an allergy to alpha-gal. And what this means is that products that contain alpha-gal that are from these other kinds of mammals, so red meat or potentially dairy, sometimes wool and leather. There are many personal care products like shampoos and moisturizers that have alpha-gal in them because they're made with animal products. These could cause you to have an allergic reaction, much like you would with a peanut allergy or a soy allergy.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, and they can range from almost like unobservable to extremely severe. You could have anaphylactic reactions to alpha-gal. The main difference between alpha-gal and other food allergies or other kinds of allergies is that it's got what we call a double delay. So you get bitten by a Lone Star tick, and it could be any Lone Star tick at any stage. Because it's in their saliva, any stage, even the larval tiniest Lone Star tick bite, could trigger this allergy. But it would take weeks to months for you to start presenting allergic symptoms after getting bitten by that Lone Star tick. And then the second delay is from eating a product that contains alpha-gal, so having a hamburger or maybe like putting on a wool sweater or something. It could take hours, like 2 to 8 hours, for you to start actually showing those symptoms. So it presents as what we call this midnight allergy because people are having red meat with their dinner and then waking up in the middle of the night with these allergic symptoms, these cardiac symptoms like feeling faint, feeling dizzy, or having kind of tachycardia. You could have hives.
What is tachycardia?
It's kind of like heart palpitations.
Okay.
So you could also have skin symptoms. You could have swelling in your extremities or in your lips. You could have hives, itchy hives. And then you could also have gastrointestinal symptoms where you're having nausea, you're having vomiting, you're having diarrhea, you're just having really nasty cramping. All of these kinds of symptoms, as well as those like anaphylactic throat closing symptoms that are making it difficult to breathe.
No, I know that my daughter carries an EpiPen because of allergies with regard to bee stings and I guess ants as well. Is there any, and this is only one tick, we'll talk about other ticks as we go along, but is there any preventive measures that people can take against these Lone Star ticks?
Preventive measure, the best way to prevent being bitten by a Lone Star tick is to basically make sure you're protecting yourself when you're in tick habitat. Lone Star ticks are a little hardier and a little more aggressive than the ticks that we particularly know of on the Cape, like our dog tick and our black-legged tick. They usually kind of keep to their own business unless you're really close by. But the Lone Star tick, once it senses those cues from you, your heat and your carbon dioxide from breathing, the smells that come out of your body from skin and from oils, they sense all those cues and they're like, oh, it's dinner time, I gotta go get that. Lone Star ticks are known to walk even like a few meters to get to a potential host. And then
walking a few meters for a tick is like walking a mile for us, right?
Oh yeah, and they can sense these kinds of cues. Their little Howler's organs on their wrists can sense these heat cues from 4 meters away. So that's like if we could smell dinner across the National Mall.
Okay. Now, I've been told that let's say land management, including cutting your grass, does help with that. Does that help with this particular as a preventive measure?
With Lone Star tick in particular, it's a little mixed because Lone Star ticks are hardier to those drier, hotter conditions that deer ticks really hate. A mowed lawn will definitely ward off deer ticks because the shorter vegetation, the short grass, is less humid. It's a little dry, and deer ticks are very vulnerable to being extra dry. They're very vulnerable to dehydration. Dog ticks, not so much, but they generally keep to that kind of tall grass and sort of pasture habitat where it seems more likely that like deer or dogs or other kinds of animals will be walking through. Lone Star tick, at least from my experience doing sampling on the vineyard with the folks at the Martha's Vineyard Tick Program and from my own research and experience, Lone Star ticks just don't really care. As long as the area isn't like paved or just bare dirt, you could have a Lone Star tick.
Wow. Okay, so we've talked a lot about Lone Star ticks, and you've mentioned dog ticks. How dangerous are dog ticks to folks?
Dog ticks, we're mostly only concerned about adult dog ticks, and I have a couple right here.
Okay.
I've got my little sticky pad that's got a bunch of ticks on it here.
Hold that up so.
So these big ones here are dog ticks. Now, dog ticks are our biggest ticks here on the Cape.
They are.
And we're only really concerned about the adults because only the adults are known to be questing or hunting, well, waiting for a host in the same way that our other species of ticks do. So we actually, when we're sampling, we don't even necessarily pick up nymphal or larval dog ticks just because they're not questing the same way. They're just hanging out in the leaf litter.
How is there a difference?
What do you mean?
When you say questing not in the same way.
Right, so when a tick senses those cues from a live host, they kind of climb up to maybe a piece of grass or a leaf or a branch or something, and they stick their little front legs out so that they can get more of that sensory cue, but also so that they can grab on if something happens to brush past. And that behavior of host seeking is called questing.
Okay.
And the younger dog ticks don't necessarily do that. They don't climb up and they don't stick their arms out in that same way.
Okay. All right, so that's the dog tick.
Yeah.
What's the next tick on the...
Well, in the middle, size-wise, we've got our Lone Star tick, which, as we mentioned, could be in a bunch of different places. It could be in those woodier habitats, but it could also be in sunnier habitats where it's a little drier, and they tend to travel around a little more.
Okay.
We were talking before about how dangerous dog ticks are. We're only necessarily concerned about these big ones, and the diseases that they can give you are relatively rare but still present.
Okay.
The big ones they can give you are tularemia and Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which are both quite serious.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I could tell you there was a tick-borne disease that isn't serious, but
So do I.
yeah. But it's relatively easy to find a dog tick on you.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because they're so much bigger than these other ticks.
Especially if you have a dog.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
And this might sound facetious, but do cats get different fleas than dogs?
I think the cat flea is the same as the dog flea.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, though. I would need to look it up to be 100% sure, but I think they are the same flea.
Okay.
But yeah, then our smallest tick is our deer tick, which is the tick that carries the most diseases.
Okay. Well, what are the carriers of? They call them deer ticks.
Yeah.
But I'm told that white-footed mice are carriers of them as well.
Yeah, all of our human-biting ticks are kind of host generalists, so they can feed from a bunch of different kinds of animals. So our deer ticks can pick up Lyme disease from the white-footed mouse, but they could also be on a raccoon. They could also be on ground-dwelling birds. They could also be hanging out on your dog or your cat. They can obviously be on deer. We often find them on deer in large numbers, but they could also potentially be on animals like rabbits, basically a ton of different warm-blooded mammals. But in other places, deer ticks in the genus Ixodes are also known to feed on lizards.
Lizards?
Lizards.
Yeah, I thought lizards were cold-blooded.
Well, they are ectothermic. They do take their heat from their environment, but they do still have running blood. And there are places where, if there are plenty of lizards present, deer ticks will feed on them instead.
Whoa. Okay. So we've talked about three different types of ticks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What can people do as individuals? What is the kind of uniform that people should wear to protect themselves?
So I've actually got my clothes here. I keep these in my car because I do a bunch of tick sampling, but it's nice to keep them around.
You're still dragging their towel through the woods?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got my big flag. I take it through the woods. I take it through yards.
Yeah.
So one of the, if you do one thing, getting permethrin-treated socks is going to be really helpful.
What kind of treatment?
These are treated with permethrin. Now, permethrin is a kind of pesticide. It is a neurotoxin to ticks and other arthropods. Okay. And basically when a tick gets on this, it kind of makes them feel like they're on fire.
Oh, okay.
And
now, is that like DEET, or is it different?
It's different.
Okay.
So permethrin isn't necessarily safe to apply to your skin when it's wet, but when it's applied to clothing like this, it's very helpful and protective, but doesn't hurt us.
Okay. So you're looking at socks. Now, how high are those socks?
Those socks, they reach about here. They reach
about
about mid-calf. The higher your socks, honestly, the better, because tucking your pants into your socks is really, really also very helpful. The only time that I've been bitten by a tick since I got this job was when I didn't tuck my pants into my socks.
Okay.
I was wearing my permethrin-treated pants, my permethrin-treated socks, my permethrin-treated shoes, which are right here. I actually spray these myself, but the other ones are treated by a different company.
Okay.
And you can actually get permethrin to spray on your gear over at places like Agway. You could get it at Walmart, but it's just like a spray bottle, and you read the instructions. It tells you how to do it safely, what kinds of protective equipment you need to apply it. I usually just go to a part of my yard that doesn't have very much wind. I spray my shoes very generously.
Oh, you do it outside?
Yeah, I do it outside, and I never do it while I'm wearing it because I don't want the wet permethrin on my skin. And then I let it dry.
What happens if it gets on your skin?
Well, it can cause irritation. It could burn your skin a little bit. It could just hurt you.
All right, so you do this outside,
Mm-hmm.
and you do it in a place where it's not going to blow on your skin,
Yeah, where it's not going to blow on your skin.
and it dries out,
Yeah.
but it permeates the garments you're putting it on.
Yeah, these are waterproof shoes, but the permethrin gets all into the fibers and it sticks onto the waterproof sections.
Okay.
So when a tick climbs on my shoe, it will feel like it's on fire, and it will either book it on out of there, or it will not be able to get away and it'll die.
Okay, so that sort of tells people not to be wearing their flip-flops while they're walking through the grass or walking in the woods.
Yeah, closed-toed shoes and high socks and full pants are definitely like the uniform to make sure you're not getting bitten by ticks.
Yeah, is there any, can ticks differentiate on color?
Well, ticks don't have very good eyesight, really. I can show you here. So you won't be able to see without a microscope, but deer ticks don't have eyes at all.
Oh, really?
They don't. And then Lone Star tick and dog tick have very simple eyes that are kind of the same as the eyes of a caterpillar. Now, a caterpillar doesn't need to see super well in order to do what it's doing. A caterpillar pretty much needs to use other cues to find whatever the next leaf is. And the sensory cues that a tick is relying on also don't rely on your visual senses. So the teeny tiny eyes that they have kind of on the sides of their shields here are really only light and dark sensors. So they could see if it's bright out, they could see if it's not bright out. This might have something to do with them avoiding desiccation or getting too dry, because if it's sunny, it might be drier.
So a bright color wouldn't attract them necessarily.
No, it doesn't really matter. When we suggest light clothes for when you're out trying to avoid ticks, it's basically because it'll just be easier to see ticks on your clothes if they're light, because most ticks are rather dark in color.
Okay. Okay, so that's a myth, I guess, that's been exploded with this conversation. Okay, so in terms of, we've talked about what people should do to protect themselves. What about tick education? Because one of the things that parents, need to have is some information to tell their kids to protect themselves. What should parents tell their kids if they come in with a tick on them?
Well, first,
how do they, in other words, how do they retrieve the tick off the kid?
Sure. So over at the county, we have these really nice tick removal kits.
Okay.
And
where do you get those?
You can get them from the Department of Health and Environment over in Barnstable. And they have a whole bunch of these. I've got some
Put
at the
that up a little bit more.
Sure. I've got some of these at the extension office as well. Now, these tick kits include a pair of nice tweezers, which you're going to use to get that tick out.
Well, you do pull them out.
Yeah, you pull them out with your tweezers or with your hands.
I've heard you could put Vaseline over them, and that causes them to retreat. Is that true?
It's not encouraged. I would say that removing the tick with physical means rather than chemical means is more likely to make sure that it's not potentially injecting extra parts of its salivary glands that might be infected with pathogens. Now, I haven't been able to find out whether or not this is completely true, because there haven't been enough studies on whether exactly these kinds of methods like nail polish or using a flame or using Vaseline actually make the tick inject stuff into you. But it's a better idea to not bother the tick more than you need to while you're trying to get it out.
When I was a kid, my mother used to use a cigarette, on the, a lit cigarette.
You get burned a lot?
Well, I love my mother. Yeah, it did. It hurt like hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in any case, I was one. That's something that that people do. Okay, but what happens if you leave a piece of the tick in in the wound?
Well, that's actually fine. I mean, it might bother you to know that it's there, but it'll actually get ejected kind of like a splinter would. And the actual mouth parts of the tick in particular aren't going to cause more harm. It's more the stuff that's in the gut bacteria and the salivary glands. So if you get the back of the tick off, then you don't need to worry so much about if you broke off the mouth parts.
Is there any any type of like hydrogen peroxide or alcohol you should put on it when you've taken,
Yeah,
if something's left in there?
You should just clean it like you would any other wound. So
okay, soap and water then.
Yeah, soap and water or alcohol is fine as well.
Mm-hmm.
You just make sure that it gets clean so it doesn't get infected with anything else. And then just, keep a monitor over the next few weeks to see if whoever got bit is going to start feeling sick.
Okay.
And honestly, the faster you remove a tick, the faster you can see a tick and then take it out with your tweezers or with your hands, the less your chances of contracting a tick-borne disease.
Do you need to save the tick?
That depends. If you wanted to show your doctor or if you wanted to send it out to get genetically tested for different pathogens, you could save the tick. If you wanted it identified.
And if you did decide to save the tick to do that,
mm-hmm.
how should you preserve it?
So honestly, what I've done here is a great way to preserve a tick. So I have this on a piece of lint roller paper, and then I put a piece of tape over it. You could just put it up in a piece of tape and then fold the tape over the tick so it can't get out. If you're getting a tick tested, keeping it as intact as possible is good. Now, as an entomologist, I tend to put my ticks in a little vial of alcohol because it kills them very quickly. And I don't necessarily need to send my ticks off for testing because they haven't bitten me. But having them on a little piece of tape or in a tiny sealed plastic bag is perfect.
Okay. And where would you send them if you're going to send them out for testing?
There are a couple different labs that you can send them to. I know that Tick Report is the one that Barnstable County has had a relationship with for the last few years. We used to have a project where we subsidized tick testing costs, but that's kind of run out of funding. I'm trying to find out where I can get more funding for that program because people really use it.
Well, right now, as I understand it, Healy is trying to restore some of the funding
mm-hmm.
for different programs. Maybe that's something to look at.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
There are also a couple of different labs. The cost of it is around $50 or $60 for one tick for a standard disease panel. And this is because a lot of the equipment and a lot of the science behind it is expensive. But it is up to you whether or not you want to go through with that expense because it can cost $100 or $200 if you want big panels. And
big panels?
Yeah, the less common diseases. A basic panel will cover the 3 to 6 most common diseases for the tick that you've got. They'll identify your tick and then they'll tell you through a DNA test what diseases are in the tick's body.
They do a DNA test on everything these days.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just went through a DNA test, for the presence of cancer cells.
Oh.
And I was clear.
Good.
Because I'm in remission right now. But I was really amazed at how many applications there are for that.
Absolutely. I actually got my master's degree in looking at the DNA of fruit flies.
Okay, well, fruit flies are a whole nother subject.
Of course, of course.
Now, in terms of the range of responsibility you have as an entomologist, what else does it include besides ticks?
So the tick program is a large part of my job here at Barnstable County, but I'm also doing a lot of coordination and education for our Master Gardener program.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, that's a great program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's really lovely there. I got to teach them about entomology for the training this year, but I'll be taking over training almost completely for next year.
Now, are you introducing worms to that? Because I'm a great lover of earthworms.
Oh yeah, vermiculture.
And the way they sort of, fertilize in a natural way. Your garden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as well as supplying bait if you want to go fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do lectures on composting as a part of the training because they learn about a bunch of different topics, including indoor and outdoor container plants. They learn about soil composition, and they learn how to do soil pH testing, which they do at the horticulture clinic.
So you do that for the county?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, my uncle did that for the federal government 100, well, a long time ago. And that was a very important part of what they did as far as the evaluating things. So I'm glad to. So okay, those are things that. So there's a wider range. So you're involved. So say soil evaluation, the Master Gardener program. What other programs?
Well, between those two, my hands are pretty full, but whenever I can get time, I like to put in a few entomology programs. So I'm running an insect collection for the county for just Cape Cod native insects. So, like, I go out and collect insects every now and again, and I preserve them and I put them in the collection. That's one of my projects. I do a bunch of different speaking engagements about insects. I talk a lot about integrated pest management. I did a talk this week about insect acoustics over at the Truro Library. And then I also do a bunch of basic education on entomology. This week I'm doing a light trap that people can come to at Greenbrier. And honestly, just whatever I can fit. But I also do, I answer inquiries from people who are in Barnstable County. They give me emails or they give me calls asking for insect identification or advice about their pest problems, and I can use my expertise to identify those insects and kind of give them suggestions.
Now, you brought up a good point. How would somebody get a hold of you?
Oh, well, I mean, they can find my information on the county website, but I have a bunch of my cards here. They could call me or they could email me. They could call the extension office and ask to be, they could ask to be forwarded to me. I also do work at the extension.
And what is the phone number of the extension office?
I don't have the number for the extension office, but I have my number.
Okay, and your number is?
My number is 774-224-0812 for my office.
That sounds like a mobile phone.
Oh, there's another number that's my mobile phone.
Oh.
That gets forwarded to my Microsoft Teams, which also gets forwarded to my phone.
Okay.
But if they wanted to call my cell, it would be 508-776-5685, or they could email me at escher.cattle@capecod.gov.
Okay, so there's an easy way to do that. And believe it or not, we're almost at the end of all of this.
Oh, okay.
So what is the main takeaway you would want folks to have?
I would say that because the ecology of ticks is so complicated and because the kind of situation that we're in is from many different causes, and the solutions are difficult to implement one by one. Not everybody agrees on how they should be implemented. The best thing that you can do to protect yourself from getting bitten by ticks is personal protection. So getting your treated shoes, getting your treated socks and treated pants, and then tucking your pants into your socks, one of the best things you can possibly do. For your skin, if you have to have exposed skin, wearing a repellent that's got DEET or picaridin or oil of lemon eucalyptus, having that on your skin can help your exposed skin not get bitten by ticks. And then just generally making sure that you're doing checks on your body for ticks, getting really familiar with where there are little lumps so that you can find one that's not supposed to be there.
Well, from a romantic point of view, if your partner, you can ask your partner to strip down and examine her because you're just looking for ticks. I mean, that might be an excuse for other things. So it could
Maybe
be
so.
fun too.
I think finding a tick would really ruin the mood for me.
Oh, absolutely. So anyway, Escher, I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank the viewers for spending the time with us to find out more about this very important subject here on Cape Cod. It's pervasive. It's there, and you now have heard of ways of protecting yourself. So with that, I want to thank Escher for coming and the fact that you can get all this information from Barnstable County. And I will say, as a loyal alumnus of the county, that this is only one of the services that are available from Barnstable County that you should avail yourselves with. And so with that, I want to thank the viewers. You've been watching another production of Born TV.